Hey, Kids Cook Real Food. Katie Kimball here, and today we are talking about bees and honey and coughs and colds and attention. I know that seems like it's all over the board, but I promise it's actually only one topic, and I've got Carlys Stein from Beekeepers Naturals here with me to cover it all. Thanks for being here, Carly.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so here at the Healthy Parenting Connector, our mission is to reach parents who really want to raise healthy kids with the experts who have the information they need. And Carly's story is super interesting. She learned about Propolis, which is a bee product in Italy, and it helped her avoid some pretty serious surgery, launched her on a mission to find similar bee products in America. When she had trouble, she figured she should just start the company. So she did. And she runs Beekeepers Naturals, keeps bees, and is a tireless advocate for the preservation of the global bee population, which really is in trouble. So her mission is to improve the health of bees and humans alike. And I'm so excited to talk about because like as a blogger, I get all this cool, like healthy stuff in the mail. It's all over my desk because I got it out. But sometimes I don't know what to do with it. Like I put it in a bathroom cupboard or a kitchen cupboard and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I asked Carly to come on today because her products are so cool, but they kind of need education with them. Like, how do we help our family get through daily life in a healthier way with these? So that is what we're going to talk about today. Lots about kids' health, but I love your story, Carly. Tell us how you got into this bee and honey stuff real quick.
Yeah, so I love to share this because the company really came from an authentic place. It wasn't like I saw a profit opportunity in the market and seized it. It was really simply I was very sick and I found something that worked for me and then I wanted to share it. So I have an autoimmune condition. I can't take antibiotics, and growing up, I really struggled with my immune system. I had chronic tonsillitis, strep throat all the time, just always sick, and then couldn't take antibiotics. So I didn't really have, and I'm also allergic to just most over-the-counter products. So I didn't really have an option when it came to healing. And that was just kind of the state of affairs for me. I was the sort of person who I would get, sick with a cold and be out of school for 3 weeks as a kid.
Oh.
So really rough. My parents used to call me Bubble Boy because I was always sick. But when I was in college, I did a semester abroad and, of course, got really severe tonsillitis. And I went into a pharmacy in Florence and I was given Propolis. Didn't look like this, but
right.
Given a different Propolis. And it was the first time something worked for me. And I used Propolis to make a full recovery without any adverse reaction. And so for me, Propolis functioned in my body the way antibiotics do for normal people, but without all of the negatives that would come with it if I were to take antibiotics. So that was really my first experience with bee products. After that, I just started using them basically for everything every time I got sick, and they worked. And then I came home to North America to finish up college. And when I did find bee products, I couldn't find them in the quality that I needed because I'm autoimmune. I'm really sensitive to pesticides and just kind of exposure to any sort of toxins. And so I couldn't really find them, and I knew that I needed them. So I started beekeeping just to get my hands on stuff and be able to control the product quality. And then sort of snowballed from there. I completely fell in love with bees, bee products. They radically changed my health. When I graduated college, I went into finance because it sounded crazy to start a bee company. But, after like a few years in that, I was just like, what am I doing? I sort of brought back to the bees. And so that brings us to today with Beekeepers Naturals.
Yes, and it's flourishing. My kids love the Propolis as well. I've got the regular, which is almost empty because I use it a lot. And the kids version, which is a little sweeter, but they actually like the regular one too. So what's like the science behind Propolis? Like what even is that word? Most of us probably haven't even heard of it. And like what instances would busy parents want this product on hand for?
Yes, great question. So I'll start off with what Propolis is and how it's kind of used in the hive. So if you think about honey, it's an energy source. It's like a source of carbs in the hive. And it comes from floral nectars, whereas Propolis you can think of as the medicine of the hive and really the immune system of the bees. And the base ingredient for Propolis is plant and tree resins. So it's a little more medicinal, a little more adaptogenic in nature. And then how it's actually used in the hive, so the bees will collect these plant and tree resins, put it through their enzymatic process, and then use it to line the entire hive to keep it germ-free. So they line all of the hive walls. For newborn baby bees, they line the insides of the cells for the newborns to create a sterile environment. And one really interesting fact about Propolis and a testament to its power is the fact that let's say a predator gets into the hive, like a mouse, the bees can sting it and kill it. They can't physically pick up a dead mouse and carry it out of the hive.
Yeah.
And just like us, if there was a dead body in our living room, we'd get pretty sick. If there's a decaying rodent in the middle of the hive, it would kill everyone over time. So what the bees actually do is they mummify this dead rodent in propolis, and propolis is that powerful of a protective agent. It's that powerful, and it's in terms of its antimicrobial, antibacterial, antiviral abilities, that it protects and insulates the entire hive from a decaying rodent in their living room. So for the bees, propolis is the building blocks of their immune system. It's their medicine. It's their antibacterial substance. And for humans, it functions in very much the same way. There's over 300 beneficial compounds in propolis. It's anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, and antimicrobial. So it's really great for combating anything from allergies to cold, flu, sore throat to just sort of preventing and boosting your immune system. And the actual word, it was coined by Aristotle, and it comes from propoli, and it means defender of the city. And that's the other thing about propolis that is so interesting. It's not a new superfood. It's something that we as humans have a really long-standing medicinal history with. So the first recorded human use of propolis, it actually dates back to 300 BC. And then across cultures, people used propolis. The Incas used to drink propolis to reduce their fever. Cleopatra used propolis. Hippocrates was a big fan of it. People used to use it to treat like abscesses and wounds. And then even actually in the 17th century, in the London Pharmacopoeia, propolis was listed as an official drug. So propolis is sort of a Swiss Army knife when it comes to health. It's an awesome immune booster, really great for preventing cold, flu, sore throat, as well as treating it. And we've been using it for a really long time.
Wow. Like, I literally loved every bit of that. I kind of wish this was live and people could be hitting hearts and stuff, because that's so cool. That's so amazing. I had no idea about the rodent thing. It's a little bit gross, but fascinating. So you sell it in a spray bottle, and it's called throat spray, but I'm thinking, like, can you even use it multi-purpose, like you're seeing it like a cut or a scrape, an open wound? That's so cool.
So when I go camping, I'm also a rock climber, and I do outdoor climbing. I'm constantly scraping my hands. I keep it in my harness, and so I use it. I spray it in my mouth. I do it every day just for general immune boosting. I use it for allergies. If I'm feeling run down, when you wake up with like that tickle in your throat, I'll use propolis to just kind of zap the bug. But I use it topically as well. It's actually really, because it's super anti-inflammatory, so it's amazing for sunburns. It's antibacterial, so it is really great for scrapes, bug bites, any of that. I had a really bad sunburn not too long ago, and I actually just mixed propolis into my skin cream, put it all over my face.
That's so awesome. And it's not like this is $100 bottle either. It's super affordable. And so we're going to be like, we're traveling. We were traveling over the summer. Like, that's almost the only thing we needed to take. That's so cool. Yeah, my kids ask for it. And now that you said allergies, I'm very intrigued, because I do have some kids with allergies, and it's safe to do every day, even though it's antibacterial. This isn't like it's not going to harm the gut kind of thing, like if you were taking antibiotics.
So that's the thing I love about propolis. Even when you compare it to other sort of plant-based antibacterial agents like oil of oregano, it can still be really, like oil of oregano can be really disruptive to the gut.
Right.
The thing about propolis is it's really high in enzymes, and it also does contain like a little bit of natural strains of probiotics. So it's sort of like really nourishing to your body. It's totally safe to take daily. I take it every single day, 3 sprays a day, and then I do like 5+ if I'm traveling, going on airplanes, feeling run down. But it has the anti-inflammatory effects. And then it's a prebiotic. It's really high in flavonoids, and it's really good for your gut. We have a ton of customers who have colitis or just inflammatory conditions. Propolis can be really great for any sort of inflammatory condition. And it's also really great for candida. It contains a natural fungicide in it called pinosembrin. So it's really great for combating candida.
Wow. This is so, like, literally everything. I love, there's so many answers to that question. Yeah, that's so cool. I was at a conference not too long ago, and I heard 2 months later that not everyone, but like many of the 6,000 people at that conference left with the flu, like went home and immediately got the flu. And I didn't, and my husband didn't, and a bunch of people we knew didn't, because we had, because we had these samples. And I even reached out to a friend, and I was like, oh, like, so glad to hear you didn't get, the flu from that conference. And she said, I totally did. And all my 9 kids did once I got home. I didn't really, she didn't even know that everyone from that conference had it. So I was very grateful that I grabbed a sample at that conference. Like, that was so powerful. And speaking of germs, kid germs at school are a huge concern, especially in the fall and the winter. So it's amazingly powerful that nature's provided this remedy for colds, flus, and coughs. And I know we can't make medical claims here, of course, so let's just put that out there as the disclaimer. But what is your total kind of cold and flu regimen, realizing that obviously this propolis is step one?
Mm-hmm. So propolis is step one, and then just, talking about cold and flu time for kids, we do have our kids formula, and the formula is 85% propolis, and then it contains buckwheat honey. And we made this because a study actually came out comparing buckwheat honey to dextromethorphan. Dextromethorphan is the active ingredient in like the cherry flavored cough syrup for kids, so the sort of over the counter stuff. And what the study found was that buckwheat honey was actually just as effective for pediatric upper respiratory infections. So when we saw that, and we saw that it was just as effective and natural, without the side effects, we're like, okay, no brainer, let's build a product around that. So that's what this is. This is a pure propolis. This is just propolis with buckwheat honey. So it speaks to that study. It has the effects for the kids, and also it has the buckwheat honey, so it's a little bit sweeter. But yeah, so those are sort of foundational steps when it comes to boosting your immune system. Another thing of other things that I think are just critical for everyone, and this might be obvious, but it's surprisingly not to some people. Staying really well hydrated is really key. And then I love doing tea with honey. So there's a lot of incredible herbal teas out there. I wait until the tea is just like a little bit warm versus boiling to put the honey in. Just because anytime you're applying heat to anything, you're killing some of the enzymes. And one of the beautiful things about raw unpasteurized honey is that it's so highly enzymatic. So honey also has antiviral capabilities. It's really high in antioxidants. So that's something I do every day for my health as well.
Got it. That's awesome. So I'd been thinking all along that this kids version was just supposed to be sweeter, but actually, like, if I'm an adult and I have a cough, grab the kids one?
Yeah, totally. I mean, propolis is super powerful.
Anyway.
I would say the kids one because it has the buckwheat honey specifically for a cough, just because that's what the study spoke to, could be good. But for me, when I have a cough, I just do tea with buckwheat honey, and then I spray propolis all day.
That's so awesome. I mean, honey has all these incredible properties, but also definitely as an ingredient in healthier baked goods. So for our bakers out there, people who like to just, culinarily use honey, what can you tell us about the way Beekeeper's Naturals sources honey, and what should conscious consumers always watch for when they purchase bee or honey products?
Yeah, so this is a really important one because there's huge variance, and just because the label says organic does not mean that it's the cleanest honey out there. Here's the reality. The organic radius, it's under the distance that the bees will forage. So the bees will forage for a 5-mile radius. Organic is less than that. So just because the bees are on some clean organic land, if the next door neighbors are doing some dirty stuff and the bees fly over and get exposure, they'll bring that back and trace amounts into your product. And, for some people, that's not such a big deal. Bee products are still incredibly healthy, and these are trace amounts. For people like me who are autoimmune, or for people who are just real purists, that could be an issue. And so at Beekeeper's Naturals, we really speak to that, and we're trying to make the highest quality bee products. So all of our bee products, before they go into the bottle or jar or whatever, we do third-party pesticide testing. Okay. So we keep our bees, to just combat that whole pesticide issue, we keep our bees kind of in the middle of nowhere. We have apiaries in the Rockies and that sort of thing. So we're really getting them away from pesticides, and we do that for 2 reasons. One, to create a product quality that's just completely pure, completely clean. So it's really safe for autoimmune people. And then it's just a really high quality product. And 2, so we can really have impact with the bees. So we can create a product that, the bees who are making it are not actually at all exposed to pesticides. And we create this beautiful pollinator environment that's really conducive to their health, which is, a really serious issue right now. So that's just a big thing that's kind of different. And a lot of companies, you want to question it. Just because it says organic doesn't mean it's clean. And you want to actually look into the backstory of the company and what their stance is on sustainability. And if they do practice third-party pesticide testing, right now I haven't seen a lot of people out there who are doing it. I'm hopeful that changes, and I can certainly say that we do. So that's a big thing. And then the other thing is you want to make sure your honey is raw and unpasteurized.
Right.
Sometimes I see people and they're like, oh, my honey is bad, it's crusty, or it's hardened. And the thing is, honey is the only food on the planet that never expires. So it's not bad. We've actually found honey in Egyptian tombs that's nutritionally intact. What does happen to raw, unpasteurized honey is over time it will harden, and that's totally fine and totally natural. And if you're a baker like me, I love using honey in salad dressing. So when it does crystallize like that, it can be a little trickier to work with. What I do is I fill a pot with boiling water and I just drop the jar right in, and I let it sit for a little bit to soften. And that's not applying enough heat to pasteurize it, but it's enough heat to sort of soften it a little bit. So I'll do that, but also just knowing that the crystallization period will be different depending on when the honey's harvested and the floral sources it's coming from, and that it's something that's totally natural. And you want to avoid pasteurized, because pasteurized honey is essentially sugar water. It's honey that's been boiled to such a high degree for a long enough period of time to really kind of cook out all the good nutrients.
Okay, so even if you're using honey in baking and you're going to heat it anyway, is it still as important to start with raw, or is that where you'd save on some cost?
It still is important to start with raw for sure. Just because, again, like the pasteurized honey, it's literally sugar water. Like at that point, you may as well be using sugar. With the raw honey, even when you're baking with it, for me, when I'm making muffins or something like that, I'm baking at like 350 for an hour. That's very different than pasteurizing the honey. When you pasteurize honey, you literally cook it to the point where it bubbles.
Okay.
So you're really it's in a pan and you're cooking it until it's bubbling.
Sure. And dry heat's different than wet heat. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, we love to get our kids in the kitchen, but nobody wants to have honey in the daughter's pigtails, right? Mm-hmm. So do you have any tips for using honey or maybe other bee products in the kitchen?
Yeah. So, I love honey in the kitchen. It can definitely get sticky, but it's great. I love propolis. I actually spray propolis into my smoothies. I mix it into my nut butters. I use it in salad dressings. There's 0 grams of sugar in propolis, but it does have that nice sweet taste. Mm-hmm. So I use it as a 0 calorie, 0 refined sugar health booster, but also taste booster. And then I love using bee pollen. Bee pollen as well, you want to be careful because if somebody has allergies, bee pollen can be way too strong. Okay. But if you're allergy free, bee pollen is a great way to boost the nutrition content. And I know we have a ton of moms that make sneaky PB&Js. They'll sprinkle some pollen in and mix the propolis with the peanut butter.
Wow. Now, what are the health benefits of pollen? Because it's not something that I've just seen people munching on.
Yeah. So pollen is awesome. And again, if somebody has allergies, pollen can be too triggering for them. Yep. So you want to be aware of that. But bee pollen is awesome because it's really high in nutrients and minerals. I like to think of bee pollen as nature's multivitamins. It's really high in B vitamins, so awesome for vegetarians or just, moms. If you're low energy, bee pollen can be a really great way to naturally support your energy levels. It's also really high in broad spectrum vitamins. So it's a good sort of bioavailable, digestible way to get all your vitamins in. And there's actually more protein per weight than any animal source. And that's per weight. Pollen is tiny, but it's really nutrient dense. It's got protein. It's really high in enzymes. It's got branched chain amino acids, so awesome for a pre-workout boost as well. But really, I like to think of it as nature's multivitamin. So I'll sprinkle it on my smoothies. I'll, top my granola with it, sprinkle it on yogurt. I even put it on salads sometimes. I just like to think of it as a little way to kind of get your vitamins in and do it in a way that's really going to be nourishing to your body, that you're really going to absorb and take in.
Wow, this is kind of blowing my mind because I have to admit, when I got a jar of bee pollen, I was like, oh, bee pollen. Okay, maybe I'll put that in my smoothie cupboard. And I didn't open it, but now I'm very excited to start incorporating that in so many simple ways. Thinking of it as a multivitamin is awesome.
One thing to know as well, once you do open that, it's totally fine because it's not open, but once you open it, you want to store it in the fridge or freezer. Just because our bee pollen at Beekeeper's Naturals, we keep it raw, we don't apply heat, and we do that to keep the enzymes intact. So just to keep it really kind of fresh, that's a great way to store it. And you can do fridge or freezer, it's just personal preference. I love putting it in the freezer, and sometimes I'll do, I just did this for my little brother. I made him a healthy ice cream sundae with coconut ice cream, and I used bee pollen as sprinkles. But there's lots of fun ways to kind of incorporate it into your health routine. The same way you would use chia seeds or flax seeds, bee pollen is a really great topping.
Awesome. Good to know. So I have to admit that even though I've been on this natural living journey for like over a decade, I don't really have a handle on the properties of royal bee jelly, which is yet another bee product that I didn't know existed. So what's the cool science behind that?
I love royal jelly. We have it in our BeePowered honey. We also have it in these Elixir brain shots. So royal jelly is a really, first of all, I'll start off with kind of how it's used in the hive like I did with propolis. So royal jelly is the main food of the queen bee. So all newborn bees are fed royal jelly for the first 3 to 5 days of development. And then after that, they're transitioned off of it onto a diet of pollen and honey. But the one who's to become a queen continues with her exclusive royal jelly diet. And if you look at sort of the effects of that in nature, they're pretty profound. So the queen bee will lay up to 1,500 babies a day, whereas regular female bees don't have reproductive organs. The queen bee will live 3 to 5 years versus a regular bee during foraging season who's going to live 6 to 8 weeks. And the queen bee is just much more robust. She's larger and much kind of healthier looking. If you want to see pictures of queen bees, it's all over Beekeeper's Naturals Instagram. But yeah, so in nature, it has some pretty amazing effects. And then for humans, anecdotally, again, it's been used across cultures for a very long time. You know, I know in the world of traditional Chinese medicine, royal jelly is used as a hormone stabilizer and a fertility tonic for both men and women. So it's super interesting.
Wow.
It's used for anti-aging, but the main science when you're looking in the Western world has been focused on brain health. And we originally formulated our Elixir brain shots, these guys, for concussion. One of my business partner had a really serious concussion and he played a lot of sports growing up. And he had a really, really bad one where he was knocked unconscious during when he was skiing. And basically I put together this formula just to help my best friend's brain recover. And we ended up really making something that worked really well. So now we have it as a product. But the Western world, so some of the science behind royal jelly, the reason it works on a neurological level is because royal jelly is really high in acetylcholine, which is the neurotransmitter responsible for brain-body connection. So you can think of royal jelly as having the ability to kind of speed up and support our transmission system. The other reason royal jelly is so incredible for your brain, it contains 2 fatty acids that are actually only naturally occurring in royal jelly. One is called 10-HDA and the other is called AMP-N1 oxide. And they basically promote brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, and they act as a catalyst for neurogenesis. Those are some sciencey words that what they really mean is royal jelly basically helps your brain to create new cells. So it helps to support healthy natural function. So, you know, if you've struggled with concussions and you're not necessarily producing new, clean, healthy cells in that area, it will help to support that health, support the process of new cell generation. Same with for aging brains, you know, our BDNF reduces as we age, and then there's a lot of different factors that are harmful from environmental toxins to stress levels. So taking something like royal jelly, which helps them to support the natural process and helps the brain to age in a really clean, healthy way is, you know, a wonderful thing to do for one of our most important organs.
That's amazing. Honestly, I think you are the proof in the pudding, Carly, because you're not a scientist. You have a degree in finance and you're a beekeeper. And like, you're going so fast that my brain's like, I think I need some royal bee jelly right now. Like, so you got it, girl. Like, that is amazing.
A lot of royal jelly. I really do. It's made a big difference for me. Just focus, concentration, memory. I really noticed a difference in my memory, and I've been using it for a long time now as well. So that helps.
Okay, that's awesome. And, you know, I mean, we talk here about being a great parent and raising healthy kids, but being a good parent also means taking care of ourselves so we can make the best decisions in that daily grind of parenting. Is, you know, like, what kinds of ways should busy parents be maybe using bee products to help ourselves out?
I don't have kids yet, but a lot of my friends do, and they talk about a phenomenon called mom brain. And they love Elixir and BeePowered to combat mom brain. So might be helpful.
Okay. And the BeePowered is honey mixed with pollen and royal jelly. Is that right?
Yeah. So that's kind of an all-in-one formula. So it's a medicinal grade honey. If anybody's familiar with or uses Manuka, BeePowered is a more intense, much healthier, more nutritionally dense version of that. So with BeePowered, yes, it's a honey, so it tastes yummy, but you don't want to be kind of scooping it the way you do honey because it does have medicinal grade dosages in every teaspoon. So in one single teaspoon, you're getting 745 milligrams of royal jelly, 532 milligrams of pollen, and 43 milligrams of propolis. So It's, a really delicious way to get all of those sort of superfoods in, but it's also just really nutrient dense. You've got royal jelly for the brain, you've got propolis for immune boosting and for fighting off inflammation, and then you've got pollen for boosting energy levels and giving you the sort of broad spectrum vitamins and minerals, and then having it all come in the honey base. It's full of live enzymes, it's full of antioxidants, and it's just something you can kind of take on a spoon or put in your smoothies or mix into your tea.
Wow, that's so cool. And then is that the one that says not for 6 and under?
Yes.
Just to be clear, yep.
Yeah, there's a high amount of superfoods in there. So
it's a little potent. Yeah. Yep. That's so cool. And I mean, for the 6 and olders, if you start saying, oh, like honey, you got to take your spoonful of honey every day, they'll start reminding you.
Yeah.
I'm sure of it. That's so cool. Now, your last little line of products we didn't talk much about at all has hemp extract incorporated. And this is kind of new and it feels a little bit edgy. So we got to talk about this. How did you decide to incorporate hemp into your bee products?
Yeah. So, I mean, one thing we're doing with Beekeepers Naturals, our tagline is naturally sourced, obsessively tested. And what we're trying to do is create a completely natural, sustainable line of products, but using the scientific rigor that you typically see in the pharmaceutical world. We really want to give people things that work and things that they can use as swaps, like swap out the neocitrin for the propolis and, swap out these different things. And so one thing that we are seeing a huge issue with and just talking to our customer base is stress levels and sleep. Yes. And so that was something we wanted to build a product around for a while. And then just seeing kind of the research coming in on CBD and hemp oil, if you're using pure CBD with 0% THC, there are really incredible benefits for sleep and anxiety and stress levels. And so it was just kind of a natural fit. And then once we started testing it out with honey, because honey is so high in live enzymes, it's a perfect carrier. So it pairs really well with whatever nutrient you're kind of trying to deliver to the body. So the other thing about honey is it actually naturally relaxes you. A lot of people don't realize this, but even if you're not big on CBD, just taking a teaspoon of honey before bed is really great. Wow. Because when you take honey, it causes a slow, steady spike in insulin levels, which allows the tryptophan in honey to cross the blood-brain barrier, where it's converted into serotonin and then melatonin in the dark, which is a well-documented sleep aid. So raw honey can help contribute to melatonin. The other thing, too, this is especially something that happens for women. As we age, we tend to get depleted in our glycogen stores in our liver. And sometimes what happens is you're sleeping and your brain sort of gets a signal that your glycogen stores are depleted and your body wakes up in a crisis search for fuel. So having honey before bed can help to stock those glycogen levels and help you sleep through the night. So honey on its own is also really great for relaxing and something that's really nourishing and helpful to take before bed. And then pairing it with CBD was kind of a no-brainer. So that combo, you're just getting a super relaxing formula. We make it really accessible. We have the jars of it, which, you can keep at home and mix into your tea before bed. But we also have the sticks. And yeah, those guys, I love those, especially for me because I travel so much and I tend to get a little anxious on airplanes. So just pop open a stick and use it. And then as well, so ours, again, it's a 0% THC, yep. 100% pure hemp oil. And so we actually do have some parents that use it for their kids as well.
Mm-hmm. I have to admit, I've used it on 2 of my kids already. One, my 10-year-old daughter was super anxious one night and very worked up. And I thought, this girl is not going to fall asleep for 2 hours. And I was like, here, have this, stuck it in her mouth. And my 7-year-old had croup and was just coughing and could not sleep. It took 10 minutes. That was it. After a little spoonful of honey. And I didn't even realize it probably suppressed the cough too.
Yeah. I mean, pure hemp oil is a really safe substance. We have tons of parents that are using it for their kids. I mean, one of my girlfriends was telling me how she puts a stick in her little one's lunchbox all the time.
Aw, that's so great. Do you think that maybe the Beelixir, and I mean, some of these products, I feel like they would be good for kids who have maybe behavior issues at school, focus issues, things like ADHD. Do you hear that from your customers at all?
We do. So Beelixir is another one that it's for, you want to give it to a little bit older kids.
Yep.
Yeah, so definitely start them later. But we definitely do have we have many customers that have reached out with, things like ADD, behavioral issues. It can be really, really helpful. And it's, I'm a big fan of starting with natural and seeing if you can solve the problem there first. And yeah, we definitely have a really large customer demographic that has used Beelixir to sort of in place of study drugs.
I love that. I mean, I love that philosophy. Start with natural, see if it works. And then like for an adult, you could do a whole vial of Beelixir, like way better than an energy drink, no crash. But for a child, maybe just a little, you know, right? Like
you can do a little, even for some adults, you know, how we like to do things at Beekeepers Naturals is we have high potency. I'm a big fan of high potency formulas with short ingredient lists. So often you see out there these long ingredient lists, but when you actually look at them, they only have a very small dose of each active ingredient. So you're not actually getting enough to, you know, operate in your body. Whereas we build things in accordance with third-party studies. So our ingredients are in accordance with those things and they're high potency. So the Beelixir shots, we're dealing in the 300 to 500 milligrams per active ingredient. So even for some adults, like some of the people on my team, they take half a vial. I take a full vial probably 5 days a week. But a lot of my team members will take half a vial, stick the cap on, take the rest the next day. It also becomes a much more accessible price point. And when you're using these things over the long term, that's when you really see the best effects. But for a little one, start small, like less than half a vial is totally fine. See how they react and move up if you need.
Yeah. So I love to leave parents with a super practical step they can accomplish right away. So if we did one thing with this information for our families, what should it be?
Honestly, Propolis, I think, is really important when it comes to immune health, especially, you know, with kids in school with germs being transferred. It is a lifesaver. The other thing about Propolis is just so versatile because, you know, it's anti-inflammatory. It's something that's really nourishing to take on a regular basis. And then also just using it topically, if you'd like to do that, it's totally accessible. And it's an easy price point. It's, you know, in a convenient spray, so you can throw it in someone's backpack, keep it in your purse. It's really meant to kind of keep up with your on-the-go life.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'm thinking, I've heard that there's a bad stomach bug going around. So I'm thinking we're starting each school day with this, like tomorrow.
Yeah, no, it's a big time helper. I was actually at a wedding in Mexico and everyone got food poisoning except for me. So I don't know.
It's N equals 1, but it's still inspiring, right? That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Carly, for your time today. And I know it's been drinking from a fire hose for me. I'm super excited to start moving those products around to the proper places and like get them in the proper routines because sometimes you just don't know what to do. But this has been super educational. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everyone out there in the audience, come back next week for more of the Healthy Parenting Connector, where we find the experts who have the information you need to raise incredibly healthy children, which I know you so desperately want. I'm Katie Kimball for Kids Cook Real Food.